I'm going to do a film critique on Thor 3 Ragnarok. I've been waiting to rent this movie. I got the feeling that it was a social justice warrior twerk circle twerk. I just didn't feel like, I wasn't really sure about it. I'm a massive Marvel Comics fan. I grew up on Marvel Comics. I'm a comic book artist. Check out my comics at AmericanZarathustra.com. I'm deeply invested in comics. It's my thing. So I know a lot about the history of these things. I've actually taught comic book illustration for many years. And so I just wanted to talk about the film. Even though the film has kind of come and go in the mainstream theaters, and I guess I'm sort of late to the party, I still feel like there's something important to say in light of how Marvel is using traditional characters in a certain way. So let's look at it. Thor 3 is a feminazi's wet dream. That's the title of our presentation today. So, that's a heck of a thing to say. What am I trying to do? Lose all my friends? Let's find out. SJWs who don't read comics, Marvel, and comics fans. This meme perfectly describes the way extremely very many people feel about comics. There's a YouTube channel called Diversity in Comics. I strongly recommend that you look that up if you want to get more deeply into this topic. Over the years, Marvel has kind of become infested by SJWs, and the writing and the art has just gotten worse and worse to the point where it's not even Marvel Comics anymore. They've changed everything. Judging people by their race and sex is wrong. I wish you privileged white males would get that right. So this is what we're up against. This is the face of SJW in comics right there. So let's pull it back a bit here. Superheroes, this is my personal kind of philosophy. Superheroes are American mythology. I'm not an expert on Norse mythology. It's something I'd like to go deeper into learning, but clearly you can sort of feel this connection. I think that, you know, America being a young country compared to countries in Europe, for example, I think there's something wonderful and amazing and important for our culture to have these kind of mythologies carrying on. So I find it very interesting, and I think it's extremely precious and central to American culture. So I treat it very seriously. Here we have Valkyrie, of course the Norse version and the comic book version here. The comic book version is the one that I grew up with. I have to say I almost have a crush on this character. I love her so much. I just adore this character. She's very noble. You know, I always thought of her as kind of the female Thor. So when Marvel Comics and its SJW writers and editors turned Thor into a woman, I thought that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, because you are doing two things wrong. One, you're changing Thor, which is retarded. And two, what about Valkyrie? I mean, you have her. She's such an amazing character with a great history. Why not take all that energy and time and money that you put into feminizing Thor, and then put that into developing this character instead? Raise her up to the level of popularity as Thor. But no. Okay, so looking at the movie. The feminist gaze, male as slave, objectification. Here we have, you know, this is just, again, my opinions, but I think they're based on a lot of data. So let's go. I see feminist view of men as being either super hot or creeps. Or maybe a third category would be the cucks, the male feminists. So interesting here that, you know, if you've seen the movie, you know that Thor gets implanted with this electrode that the new Valkyrie puts on him and gives him electric shocks whenever she wants. It's a form of, I think of that as like a feminist dream, to be able to have a implant on all men so that they can be controlled. Here we have the new Valkyrie, who is obviously a person of color. It's her. She enters into the film in a way where she's this kind of drunk pirate, and drunken pirate versus noble Norse goddess. Look at how profoundly the writers changed this character. It's not Valkyrie. It isn't. It's just some other character with that name. So, in the movie, when Thor noticed her tattoo and said, "Oh, you're a Valkyrie," that to me kind of saved the film a little bit in this regard, because it's to say it's not the Valkyrie that we know from the comics and even mythology. I found her just evil and insufferable. And there's something about these kinds of characters that I don't get it, where it's like, if there's a male character who did all these things, he would be considered a total asshole. But if a female does it, it's empowering. So getting back to that concept of the male as slave, there's this one part in the story where the villain destroys the inside of I guess a castle on Asgard, and she reveals this sort of terracotta painting underneath with all these slaves and what she had done in her previous time, blah blah blah. But I just look at this and I subconsciously I see white eunuchs. I see a bunch of bald white men made to work as slaves. It's just, again, a kind of a subconscious message. So, using the concept of the feminist gaze is a play off the idea of what feminists call the male gaze, which is men, our instinct to look at women and kind of judge them sexually. It's odd in a sense, because if that were the case, then why is there such a huge industry around fashion and makeup? And that's a whole other tangent. It's a very big topic. It has a lot of psychology to it. But I had the idea of making a kind of a hashtag, no makeup, no heels. The idea being that if women wear makeup and heels to work, they're sexually harassing men. You see, because it's kind of playing off of our instinct to look at women in a certain way. So that's kind of turning the script. Anyway, getting back here, Feminist Tactics 101, bait and switch. You look at this movie, first of all, oh man, I love the comics. I love Thor, Hulk, Avengers. Avengers are my favorite comic. And I'm a massive fan of all these films. So, there's a lot of redeemable qualities to the film. There's a great casting in certain places, great story, a lot of great humor. The special effects are ridiculous and amazing. But what I'm trying to do is show people to look at it from a different angle. So what is this concept of bait and switch? Okay, the scenes with the Led Zeppelin immigrant song and the battle scenes were like almost what made the whole film worthwhile to me. So it's marketed as this, like, hey, let's go see this cool movie where we're going to see Thor and Hulk battle. It's super masculine, right? So that's baiting you. That's baiting you into thinking the film is going to be this really cool kind of movie. It's pretty much like a guy flick per se. So, we start off with this kind of cool scene. Thor, as written in this story, is much, much more comical. In the comics, Thor is way more stoic, way more noble. This version or interpretation of Thor in that movie is not, I'm going to say, it's not really Thor. It's just too kind of funny, I guess. He's likable, but the real Thor is so much more powerful and mythological. So here in the beginning of the film, we learn how he has to, in a sense, go to this kind of demon and take away this power. This demon's goal is to destroy his homeworld, his homeland of Asgard. Then we kind of see this scene where Thor and Loki meet with Odin, who is in self-exile. Now this is where it starts getting psychological. Death of the patriarchy. This notion that the patriarch, Odin, would go into self-exile and allow his land and his people to die. I think this is a kind of a secret wish of feminism. So in this speech, as they're meeting, the father is saying, you know, I've gone my own way. There's nothing I can do. You're going to have to figure this out by yourself. It's not what a father figure would do. It's not what a king would do. To, you know, I find the concept of this and the writing of this against the character. Now, it's one thing to have maybe reason for it or something, and I'm sure some of the pundits can go into some reasoning for this, but to me it seems like a false premise. But okay, you know, let's just ride with it. We'll see how it works. Destroy history. This is a huge thing that's happening in real life, right? The idea of destroying the world, taking down, you know, statues and rewriting Wikipedia definitions on things and trying to reshape the world into a feminist view. This is the chaos principle gone wild, and it's out of its nature, out of balance. It's too much yin and not enough yang. For example, cultural Marxist ideology and entertainment. Erase their history, demonize them, and disarm them. Kneel before the girl-boss archetype. I love Cate Blanchett. I love her. She is phenomenal. She picks really amazing roles. Her level of acting, her skill is sky high. She just is amazing in everything she does. I love her. So, and she treated this role brilliantly, you know. And in every good superhero movie, etc., any good fiction, you have to have a bad guy or a girl who is, oh, I said guy or girl, oh my God, who is way stronger than the hero, because then the victory for the hero is that much more sweet, and that's what makes them a hero. It's kind of a trope, I suppose. So throughout the movie, she has this extremely, you know, girl boss kind of kneel before me attitude. And, you know, I'm not complaining about that per se. I'm not trying to say like, oh, that really hurt my feelings or something like that. It's part of the character, and that's that. So I'm not reading into that deeper, but what I am pointing out is that is definitely a feminist fantasy. So just tying these things together. The duplicitous psycho. In the top picture, you see her looking awfully sexy, and she's all done up, and she's got her wild, you know, hair and her heavy makeup, and there's even times in the movie where she appears somewhat personable and compassionate when she's asking her executioner, oh, you know, tell me about your ambitions and tell me about yourself. And, you know, there's moments where you feel like, man, damn, she's hot, you know, and then, of course, she turns around and is this evil monster. And I feel like this is gonna, you know, this is challengeable. You can debate me on this, but I really feel as if this is a deeper inner female fantasy. The idea that I can use my sexuality to control men. I can be unhinged. I have a license to bitch. I can be as more beautiful I am, the more crazy I am, and that this is a kind of an archetype per se in our culture. Okay, just so that you know, I'm not like hating on women and all this nonsense. I need to put some balance to the context of what I'm doing here. So I want to recommend everybody go check out Christina Hoff Sommers. There's other people out there doing great podcasts and vlogs. Honey Badger, you can check them out. The Factual Feminist. And by the way, this is one of my caricatures. I drew that. Woohoo! All right, so Trans-racialism, another SJW theme. Anyone who's familiar with what's going on in the culture wars is aware of this. This is everyone's sort of racial red flags are going off right now. They're freaking out. They're getting triggered. Uh-oh, he's gonna say something racist, you know. So that is not what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say on the one hand, there's a certain, how do I say this, like artistic freedom that, creators have where they can do a spin on a character. What was the Abraham Lincoln vampire hunter? These things are out there, in the world, and it's a thing, whatever, okay. But my feeling is, here you go, you've got a chance to represent this character and do a good job. Why did you create an entirely different person? And both the actress and the character that she played are not really Valkyrie. So, it's kind of like you pay for lobster and you get a ham sandwich or something, or tuna sandwich. You're like, this is not the same thing. It's not what I expected. Plus, I definitely feel that there's an SJW edge to this. The idea that, oh, it shouldn't matter. Well, okay. In that case, if it doesn't matter, then let's redo. Okay. We got Black Panther 2 with an all-white cast. Does that matter? Okay. Now you get it. Okay, sure. So on that topic, I love this actor, and I thought he brought a great deal of dignity to the Heimdall character. And before I went into the first Thor, and I knew Heimdall was African American, or whatever, African, I definitely was pissed off that Marvel did that. I thought, you're ruining it. And it's not to the point that, oh, you can't let black people do this. That's not the point. The point, again, is be true to the character. This actor brought so much dignity and power to the character that he sold me on it. Now, I'm kind of making an exception here. I really don't agree with the idea of, switching out genders and races for these characters. You got to remember, these are, for one, mythological people in history, and I don't say people, but characters in history, and then they're in a long history of American comics. So I don't jive with this, and this is on an aesthetic and artistic level. Okay, once again here, you see the original friends of Thor here, and they're all white dudes, frankly. So, it's okay that whatever, you have, I think this is a Japanese actor, and by the way, he was one of the only true men in the movie, the way that he approached Hela, I believe it was, yeah, so, he died a horrible death and, didn't give up, and this is the kind of thing that I think feminists don't like. Anyway, moving on. So, again, pointing out the idea of Valkyrie being this kind of beer-drinking, whiskey-guzzling pirate, she was annoying as hell. I hated her. It completely was the opposite of the love and admiration that I have for the real Valkyrie character. So, she was just insufferable. Just annoying, mean-spirited. It didn't work at all. It really hurt the movie, in my opinion. There's this kind of dream scene where she's at war, and there's this very weird kind of lesbian undertones to this, where, she's falling off her horse and her friend gets killed, and it just had a bizarre kind of, subtext to it. So, looking back, Lady Sif from the earlier Thor movies, she was way more in line with what a Thor female character would be. So I thought, this is an interesting contrast, to see what someone from the Thor universe really looks like and acts like compared to the SJW crap version. So, once again, just kind of a contextualization here, Deus Vult. Okay. So, it's their hatred of straight white males that unites them. This is bringing some context to all the previous things that I was talking about. So moving on, there's this weird scene in the movie where Thor is captured and he's put through this strange kind of ride where he's locked into this chair and he goes through this 3D animation thingy, and it has it seems as if he's on a Disney ride, and throughout the ride they're talking about this new wonderful world you're going to go to. and how you must prepare yourself to meet the great master. And so I feel like this is Disney's, kind of New World Order. Yeah, I'm not saying that it literally is per se, but oh my God, it's frightening how ironic that is. And who is this great master? A gay Jew. Okay, fabulous. So, allegory of the Zionist organized government, Zog. So, every time I keep trying to pull away from, no, don't get too, enjoy the movie, don't let that SJW stuff get to you. Come on, get into the spirit of Thor. And then this, and so here it is, he's this kind of dweeby, annoying, flaccid, effeminate leader with his bull dyke executioner by his side, and there's Valkyrie, so proud, looking at this specimen, looking at this man like he's some kind of object to have in some way. And so that just put the last nail in the coffin for me on this movie, and it's why I don't like the movie overall. Now there's an interesting thing going on here. Become the male to destroy the male. So the image on the left is just before Thor has his hair cut. That has kind of a Samson and Delilah sort of aspect to it in a way, or it almost appears in a sense to kind of emasculate him in some way, to cut his hair. And then the shot on the right is a scene where he's calling out Valkyrie, saying, if you were a true warrior, you would, follow your duty to come back and protect your people and your land. And if you're not, you're a coward and you're fake. And I thought that was, a tiny crumb for people like me, where at that moment I think she had, we got to see her for the fake that she is. Do you ever want to just disappear all the time, especially when SJWs are running Marvel Entertainment? Yeah, so that's kind of what it all boils down to. I mean, I can't think of a more triggering phrase for feminists, but I hate to say it, penis envy. And this part of the movie where Valkyrie is going into the final battle, I'm sorry, but it's just too obvious to me. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people snickering and tee-hee, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But to me, that it's like there's so many symbols in this movie that say this is a feminist's dream that I just can't not point them out. Okay. So coming back to reality, we don't want this atomized world of individuals without gender, without mother, without father, without nation. This is where I'm coming from. This is where the right is coming from. And look at these evil, evil people. These are the true monsters and enemies of the world. We must defeat them somehow. Oh, they're such a threat to us. Infantilizing Men. Okay, so while there was a lot of humor and kind of a cool sort of friendship, I don't know how to really to describe it. A little bit complex because there's a competition, and they're overly masculinized characters that are trying to soften up and become friends, and blah blah blah. So the way that they showed Hulk, I mean, it's the Hulk. I mean, geez, it's the freaking Hulk, So, but in a big bedroom, like a teenager, and is wearing all this foofy hippy dippy jewelry. I mean, it's not the Hulk, It's like, if you put the Hulk in the hands of a feminist, this is what you get. It's just plain and simple. So, SJWs rewrote or reinvented the Hulk as this Asian guy, and this isn't a no hating on Asians. I lived in Asia for 5 years. I speak Mandarin. I'm married into it. Blah blah blah. I've done Asian studies for 30 years. I teach Kung Fu. So don't give me anything about that. Again, what I'm trying to say is how they're changing the characters so much that they're not the characters anymore. So yeah, maybe an Asian guy became a Hulk, but he's not the Hulk. Okay, so don't tell me who the Hulk actually is with his little faggy hairstyle with the little thing on top. Come on. Okay, male feminists. Here you've got this totally amazing, cool character who's real badass. You know, he's made out of rocks. Cool, man. He must be tough. Well, they get some kind of a fluffy Australian guy who's just has like typical male feminist humor, where he always somehow ties homosexuality into his, not always, but you know, kind of makes innuendos and jokes about it, and he's just so nice, and it's just this another opportunity lost. Like, here could have been a really, really cool character, but he was just kind of another sort of feminized male. So there's this story, there's this point here, you know, where he's, you know, Thor's about to die pretty much, and he's kind of coming to terms with like his true inner power. He has this vision of his father saying, you know, that the hammer Mjolnir was not his power, it just helped him focus it, and then he has to reach within to reclaim that true power that is his. And so here we're seeing, you know, this is happening, and I'm saying allegorically that this is where we need to be. That's what we need to do now. That's why I'm making this, so that people can recognize it's time to take back our own narrative. This picture kind of speaks for itself in a way. I suppose I'll let you just interpret it. Okay, so these memes are pretty powerful. Mother, what are those bigoted demon cis straight males doing? Again, this is a feminist dream. That's the world they want. They're praying. Don't listen to it. It's an old thing called religion, and they preach oppression. Oh, Dawkins, no. Dawkins being one of the world's famous atheists. Ricky, it's too late, Mom, and he's turned into like a Christian warrior. Des and Troy. That was one of the funniest parts of the movie, and I think here is maybe another redeeming character. You know, it's just kind of like, I don't know what style of a British accent. He had sort of a rough, I don't know, East London style accent or something. And, you know, he was a funny character, and you know, he sold out. He sold out his people and everything, but in the end, he sort of tried to redeem himself. And I think this is another allegory, this kind of little seed in there for us, for men specifically, to redeem ourselves now. And, you know, we all have very different political opinions, different cultural backgrounds, different ethnicities, different races. But if you're a Western male, we have to get past our differences and recognize that the threats to Western civilization are far, far greater. So in the end of the movie, Asgard gets destroyed. They have to unleash this devil to destroy it in order to destroy the goddess of death, Thor's sister. So you know, the saying that they say at the end is that, you know, Asgard is a people, not a place. And I think, you know, that could probably be said for Western civilization as well. So let's put this in context here. The cultural climate of social justice warriors. This painting is done by the artist who painted former President Obama's presidential portrait. And, you know, I guess he's got a series of these African women beheading white women. He's a homosexual painter. You can do some research on it, but this is the kind of cultural climate that we're in today in the arts. You know, we look back at Obama and we look at where we're going now with Trump. And according to the internet and what I'm learning, the cultural barometer seems to show that things are turning over, that we're coming back, we're leading the way, the future is ours. So this is a message I just wanted to get out to everybody. I think that American women, Western women, feminism is really your battle. Yes, men are the ones who suffer the most from it. However, you're the closest. You're in that world. You're in that realm. And you have the greatest power to destroy the things that are unhealthy for our civilization. We honor you. The culture war is upon us. So, men, uncock yourself. Good place to start, read The Red Pill Constitution by Rollo Tomasi, illimitablemen.com. Lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of thinking. When you become aware of this knowledge, you will be what's called red-pilled. And you can pick and choose from that knowledge. You don't have to take it all. And I mean, I'm not sure where I stand on every single thing that Rollo Tomasi says, but it's absolutely important reading, essential reading for all men, and especially young men. So let's reclaim Thor. Let's bring back Marvel. Let's bring back these real characters. They have a wonderful history, a huge part of our American culture, and they're very, very, very precious to us. So let's move on. Let's get some good writers in there that know what these characters are about and bring back our culture. So last thing, a little meme I made for AmericanZarathustra.com, my website. If you have to constantly proclaim how strong you are, that only demonstrates a lack of confidence and proves how weak you are. Just be the best version of yourself. That kind of that's sort of the last thing I have to say. That's my main statement to feminists, is that if your need for affirmation has reached sociopathic levels, where you must feminize the world and crush everything that you perceive as a threat to you, then you've gone way off the deep end. And it's really just an expression of weakness. We, men and women, are a balance. The universe is binary. Learn about Taoism, learn about Taoist philosophy. That will bring a great deal of peace to you. So, that is me. That's today. Thank you so much for your time. Come and visit me at American